Thank you for listening to my daddy's podcast.
Hey, don't let these tears fool you. It's all dog around this mug. I'm good.
Got to get myself situated. Just chewed on a cracker. Got my crackers right here. But thank you all so much. And my name is TJAY Jones. What's going on, Who Dat Nation? It is yours truly, TJAY Jones. And yes, I am the host of the State of the Saints podcast. Thank you so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. And what y'all got is a little bit behind the scenes, man. I was actually trying to hurry up and chew on a few crackers before I got started, man. But hope everybody had a good weekend. Actually, doing this on a Monday for those that may be checking it out a little bit later. But this is live. It is live, all right? So if you're watching this in real time, it is live. But I hope everybody had a good weekend. Out here in Myrtle Beach, man, it rained pretty much throughout the weekend. I've been telling a lot of people, that Paxton, he started soccer. And it just seemed like it ain't working out. He was supposed to have 3 soccer practices so far, but he only had 1 because every single weekend it rains. And, but nonetheless, we had to basically become creative. Did some stuff at home. Went to church on yesterday, man. So really had a good weekend. But it's back to the work week, man. Back to the work week. It's time to talk a little bit about the New Orleans Saints, some of the news that is coming out. Not so much major news going on right now. As we know, leading up to the NFL draft, teams are trying to dot the I's and cross their T's, trying to do their due diligence. And that means maybe going to visit or asking certain prospects to come to visit. We heard throughout the National Football League, there are several teams that asked to visit with quarterback J.J. McCarthy, the Michigan national champion. Has been going up a lot of people's draft boards by the way that he conducts himself and, the things that he's actually doing to some of these, I guess you can call them practices or auditions. So, going to these different places, meeting with these different teams can definitely, improve your draft stock. And the Saints, they're looking around. They're looking for some guys, that they've been eyeing. And one person in particular, we're going to start with, is wide receiver Keon Coleman. The Saints will be visiting with Keon Coleman. And we all know who Keon Coleman is, especially if you're from Louisiana. He went to Opelousas Catholic. He was one of the best wide receivers in the state of Louisiana. Don't know how in the world he got out of Louisiana. That's a story for another day. I assume it has something to do maybe with the transition or what's going on with LSU, I would think. But Keon Coleman ends up going to South Carolina. Then he transferred to Florida State, and he had a really good season. He was pretty dominant. He had 50 catches for 658 yards and 11 touchdowns this past season. He's 6'4", 218 pounds, and he was climbing up a lot of teams' draft boards. But the biggest issue with Keon Coleman that he faced was the 40-yard dash. He ran a 4.61, which to me isn't a deal breaker. I understand that, that's not lightning speed or anything like that, but I don't really go and fall into that whole 40-yard dash trap that everybody does. I don't fall into that. And the reason why is, look, when a guy puts on pads and a guy, goes out there and he performs, man, nobody is checking for no 40 time. Nobody's checking for no bench press. Nobody's checking for no shuttle jump. Nobody's checking for no vertical leap. None of that stuff, right? In hindsight, some of those attributes might help you in certain situations. But what I see when I put on the film, when I watch Keon Coleman, is a really dominant wide receiver. He reminds me a lot of Mike Evans. He is a guy that I feel like can play in the league for a long time. He has a really good catch radius. And to be quite honest with you, due to the fact that he did not, like come off the page or, blow everybody away with his speed, I think that this is a guy that the Saints can end up acquiring. To me, if they were to go with Keon Coleman, this would be a really good replacement for Michael Thomas. Now, I know a lot of people are high on A.T. Perry, which you should be, but I just feel like Keon Coleman is a talented football player. He's extremely talented, and a 4.6 40 to me is not a deal breaker for me. It's not a deal breaker. It's not one of those things where I just look at it and be like, you know what, man, this guy ran a 4.6, or all of a sudden, like he's not good enough to play on my football team. And I think any team that does that would be a huge mistake. It would be a huge mistake if you look at this guy and say, oh, he ran a 4.6 40, so I'm not going to draft him. Keon Coleman going to be something special as long as he stays healthy. As long as he stays healthy, I think he's going to be just fine. But I think it's just a matter of who is going to select him. But it would not be a bad pick. And I mentioned, this draft isn't like the drafts in years past where it just seemed like the Saints may need one or two positions. I mean, any direction the Saints go in would be good. We talked about this several times here on the podcast. It doesn't matter if they go offensive line, defensive line, linebacker. Only thing we'll probably get upset with is a running back. That's about it. Other than that, any direction the New Orleans Saints go in, to me, I wouldn't be mad at. I mean, as long as it helps the team get better, that's all I care about. That's all I care about. I'm actually trying to pull up some of this list right here for the New Orleans Saints. Trying to see like some of these guys that I actually had. I thought I had it up here, but here it is. These are some of the names that the Saints are committed to visiting. Michigan defensive end Marshawn Nealon. He is projected to go in the third round. Also have Dylan Lube. He's from New Hampshire. He's a running back. He's projected to be a fourth or a fifth round pick. You have Christian Boyd out of Northern Iowa. This is another Northern Iowa guy. I guess it would be Trevor Penny's teammate. He's projected to go in the fifth round. There were a couple more guys that the New Orleans Saints are taking a look at. And as we hear about some of those visits, we'll keep you posted on that. But all in all, the Saints are kind of doing their due diligence. And I heard Brock Bowers' name go around quite a bit. A lot of Saints fans want the Saints to get Brock Bowers, I guess, because, Clint Kubiak is an offensive disciple of Kyle Shanahan. So I guess everybody's comparing Brock Bowers to George Kittle. So it's just only right that you get a guy who is going to have the Saints kind of mimicking a San Francisco offense to get a guy that's similar to George Kittle. Wouldn't be mad at Brock Bowers at all. I think Brock Bowers is extremely talented, but I really just feel like the Saints need to go offensive line in the first round. But if they were to get somebody like Keon Coleman, let's just say, because of not running a 4.3 or 4.2, he falls into the second round. I can see the Saints picking Keon in the second round. That would not be a bad pickup at all. But I just think that the Saints may need to do their due diligence. But I find it kind of weird, like all the reports that are coming out for the most part, I'm not really seeing too many offensive linemen or highly touted offensive linemen. Now, I don't know. I'm making this right now. News is subject to change. Things can be going on in real time. But I haven't seen too many offensive line visits for the New Orleans Saints, and I find that extremely weird, especially since we know that the New Orleans Saints offensive line has been struggling over the last couple of seasons. Yeah, they got better a little bit towards the end, but, I mean, a lot of the things that you put in place aren't there. Like you had Andrews Pete playing left tackle. He's no longer with the team. You had James Hurst out there. He's with the team, but I don't think that you want to keep on going that route. I think you probably just want to, have James Hurst as a rotational guy. Maybe if somebody gets hurt, he kind of just plugs and play. It's time to solidify that left side of the line. I mean, from McCoy to Ruiz to Ramczyk, you kind of know who the three are right there. But you need to solidify that left side with a solid guard and a solid left tackle. So I would think that the New Orleans Saints would bring some offensive linemen in. But like I said, I mean, in real time, they might have brought somebody in, but as far as I hear what I saw, I ain't really seeing too many offensive linemen that I seen on the list, which is very, very alarming to me because we know that the Saints need help on the offensive line. We're also going to be talking a little bit about today. I asked members of the Who Dat Nation, I asked you all to do a little homework. I talked about the Mount Rushmore of New Orleans Saints players, right? And I said that we're going to do 5 tiers. So we're going to be talking about that today a little bit later in the show. But first, I want to take some of your questions and your comments. But we're going to be talking about my 5 tiers of the greatest New Orleans Saints players of all time. So I'll put that up really, really soon. Also, there was a link that put out, people asked me to do this. This isn't me like stroking my own ego or anything like this. People been asking me to do this. So I put the link in the description of every single song that I ever created about the New Orleans Saints. All right. So that's available on SoundCloud right now. I put the link in the description. So if you want to get some laughs or you just want to, see somebody try to sing or try to entertain you, then hit the link, check out some of the songs. And I could not believe, man. I couldn't believe I made so many of those songs. Like when I was putting them all together this past weekend, I couldn't believe it. Like, man, I had like maybe 13 or 14 different songs about the Saints. So I was like, wow, this could actually like be like an album or something, But but all in all seriousness, you can check that out. You can hit that link; it'll bring you directly to it, and you can enjoy like all the songs that we made throughout the years. Hopefully, we make some songs that talk positively about the New Orleans Saints. I mean, it's fun and all that, but I want to, make some songs about them actually doing well. So hopefully, we can actually make some songs too to kind of balance it out. But all in all, I enjoy making them. So I appreciate you all for your support, checking them out. And I'm glad that you all enjoy them. That's the reason I do them in the first place. Good afternoon, TJ and SOTS family. What's going on, Kathleen? Thank you for being here. Says, if you want to draft a wide receiver, might as well draft Bowers. That's a good point right there. And, I wouldn't be mad at that. That's very, very smart. But I guess it all depends on the type of offense that they run. I guess it depends on, like, if they feel like they need a wide receiver, as a receiving, as a person that's going to be catching passes, or they want a tight end. But most teams, they'll go after a wide receiver in that regard. But I wouldn't be mad if they got Brock Bowers because he can give you blocking help and he can give you pass catching help. Man, I seen some fake news about Allen getting fired. I started celebrating until I did further research. I don't think that's going to happen, man. Look, unless, Dennis Allen get found on Bourbon Street with, 3-4 ladies of the evening in the alley, doing something that, ain't got no business doing that's illegal, he ain't got to get fired, right? And I hate to go to that extreme, but I think you have to go to that type of extreme. Look, Dennis Allen is the head coach of the New Orleans Saints. I mean, we just have to deal with it. I mean, unless something like, catastrophic happens this season, like he's going to be the head coach of the Saints. So, look, I understand that it's not the most exciting thing in the world. And yes, he leaves a lot to be desired as a head coach, but he is the head coach. And as long as, they want him to be here as the head coach of the New Orleans Saints, he will be there. So, and I would just say, pray for the best, hope that your team be able to get over this hump. And I mentioned this before, I can see the Saints, winning some football games. I can see the Saints getting into the playoffs. It's not like they're a terrible football team, but there are going to be times where I feel like Dennis Allen's ineptitude is going to cost this team. I don't know how many games it's going to cost them, but I do feel like there's levels to this coaching thing. And if you're not good at it, I don't think that, if you go up against a coach that is really good at it, you're just going to, channel that inner Don Shula, channel that inner Bill Walsh. Like, you are who you are. And I feel like at this point, the Saints are masquerading, or trying to hide the imperfections of Dennis Allen. Like, they're trying to prop him up because he can't hold himself up at this point. But if you start winning football games, you start making better coaching decisions, maybe get a little bit tougher when it comes to the discipline, maybe people will start respecting you a little bit more. But I think it all starts with winning. I mean, nobody's going to respect you if you got the team looking lackluster when there's a lot of potential to be a really good football team. But, he has to start winning. That's the only way he's going to get out the doghouse of the Who Dat Nation. There's not a draft pick that they can pick up. There's not a free agent signing that they can sign that is going to get people back on board with Dennis Allen because everybody already feels that he's not good enough. And look, I'm not one of them people that sugarcoat. I hear this all the time. Look, I'm just telling people how others feel, right? This isn't something that I'm just saying on my own. Like, there is frustration in the Who Dat Nation. And it just bothers me that people, that are Saints fans, and I'm sorry to get on my soapbox. I'll get back to the questions. But it really bothers me when people just want this false reality of what the world that they're living in, right? They want this false reality. They want you to blow smoke up their behind. They want you to give them optimism. But what happens when there is very little optimism to give, right? You got to find silver linings in dark clouds. And I can hype this thing up. I can talk about, they got Clint Kubiak, he bringing in an offensive scheme that's been working around the National Football League, but it doesn't matter. And it just bothers me when people want you to just sing all these positive things and they jump off, the wagon, so to speak, or, I ain't watching this no more. Why? Because somebody else on the other side is telling you how great it is. Like, why do you want to be lied to? And the worst thing about it is you're lying to yourself, because we all know that it all begins and ends with Dennis Allen. But he is the head coach of the New Orleans Saints, and as long as he is the head coach of New Orleans Saints, I have no choice. You have no choice but to hope that he can be able to get this team to live up to their full potential. So as long as he's the head coach, I have no choice but to do that. But I'm not going to lie to anybody. I'm not going to say like, this was a good move. This guy, Dennis Allen, going to have to prove a lot of things to people in order for Saints fans to get back on board, make them feel like he has what it takes to help this team win. And that has yet to be seen. And I can tell you this whole approach, like, not going to work. So I'm sorry to all those people out there that may be checking it out on other platforms like X, who always think that I'm just hypercritical about the team or think that I'm playing some type of character that's just negative about the team. You're sadly mistaken. All right. I would encourage anybody that believes that to not just look at my tweets and just analyze me, but go back and look at my work, and you'll see that I'm pretty balanced when it comes to New Orleans Saints. I praise when necessary. I criticize when necessary. So if you just rolled up to the show and you're scowling because I'm not telling you what you want to hear like most people want to hear in 2024, I'm sorry. Well, not really. I'm not sorry, but hey, it is what it is. This is the State of the Saints podcast. Like it or leave it. Let's see. Open that curtain in the background, brother. Honestly, man, it's just the woods back there, man. It's just the woods back there. Like the radio station that I'm at, WLGI. We're out in the middle. I won't say out in the middle of nowhere, but it's in the woods now. So that's all you're gonna see in the background is some trees. And honestly, I never really open that up. I know I do a lot of shows here too. The reason I don't really open that up because if I do, it's gonna have a huge glare. You're not gonna be able to see back there anyway. And no matter how I adjust the camera, because this isn't like the camera I have at the house, right, in my office. So it really doesn't adjust to certain sunlight. So that's the reason why if you roll up on this and you wonder like why I always got them blinds closed, is because you won't be able to see. Yeah, see, I'll be shocked if the Saints go tight end hours in round one. don't want to say I'll be shocked, Bobby. I'm not shocked by anything the Saints do in the first round. Draft a running back. I gotta say that. Nah, that sexy Jake was killing me though. Yeah, man. Yeah, Jake Hayner. Yeah, man. Shouts out to Jake Hayner, man. It seemed like a fun guy. DJ TJ was that. Let's see. Bronze Flat Power saying who that 52 is Ray Lewis number. Man, I got your songs off of Livewire. Well, look, wherever you got them from, I appreciate it, man. I said I just try to be as creative and funny as witty as I possibly can to try to give you all entertainment. I know, like I don't want to be like one of them people that just, just do podcasts, just talk about. I like to, be as creative as possible, and I try to give you all as much, good content as I possibly can, rather it's interviews, rather just talking about the Saints or, just, being creative. Like, cause sometimes, you got to laugh through the pain. Like, this is frustrating times that Saints fans are going through. So if you can try to provide some laughs, it's nothing personal, like nothing personal. I don't feel like anything that I'm saying in the song is not like something that Saints fans don't feel or something that we've seen. So, like I said, I would love to have more positive songs to write about. Just need material. Let's see. What if Saints draft wide receiver from South Carolina? Leggett, that wouldn't be bad. Like he's a really good wide receiver, but I don't know if they're going to go that route or not. I mean, as good as he is, he might be gone by 14. I would be shocked too, but it's the right move if you want an immediate impact guy. If we were talking about Dennis Allen, yeah, I'd be shocked. Yeah, I'd be shocked if he gone. Say turf toe. Yeah, say what are your thoughts on the ban of hip drop tackles? I'm glad you asked that, Rose City, because I was actually thinking about that before I started the show. And for those that don't know what he's talking about, the hip tackle has been outlawed by the National Football League. Of course, we know they have the committee meetings and stuff like that during the off season, and they vote on different things, right? A couple of years ago, when they had that controversial pass interference call, they voted on, reviewing certain pass interference calls. Y'all know. But anyway, the topic on the agenda for this year was the hip tackle. So basically, what a hip tackle is when you're chasing down somebody and you wrap your arms around their waist, right? And you basically take your body and shift like your weight to the side and pull that person down, right? And it is a very controversial tackle because, there was a game, I want to say it was the Cincinnati Bengals versus the Baltimore Ravens, and star tight end Mark Andrews took a hip tackle, and he ended up being out for the season. I mean, he ended up coming back for the postseason for a little while, but it cost him a lot of games. So they end up, banning this, and now it's a penalty to take guys down this way. Number one, I feel like the defense is already handicapped, and by that I mean, they already at the mercy of the offense. It just seemed like all the rules kind of are in favor of the offense. Like they're starting to take everything away, and it's going to get to a point where there's only going to be one fundamental way to tackle, and that's going to lead to a whole bunch of points. But it's not going to be exciting to play defense anymore. And also, we wouldn't even be having this conversation if Mark Andrews didn't get hurt. If this was, I don't know, I can't tell you. Like, give me the most average tight end that you can think of. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's just say, look, no disrespect, but he's not on their level. But if Foster Moreau got taken down by a hip tackle, I don't feel like this would be a conversation. If this was Alizé Mack or something like that, or Lucas Krull, like playing for Denver or something, if they got taken down, this would not be an issue. It just seems to me like anytime the NFL loses one of their biggest stars from a certain thing, then all of a sudden that's when they're starting to be reactionary. For example, and back in, I want to say 2011, in week 2, Tom Brady takes a shot to his knee. He tears his ACL. He's out for the entire season. Now all of a sudden, like, you can't hit quarterbacks below the waist, right? You can't hit them in a leg area, right? I mean, head and knee area. Like, you go anywhere below it, all of a sudden it's the Tom Brady rule. They get that outlawed. Like, any rule that they feel like ends up hurting somebody that affects their bottom line, they make changes. Mark Andrews is a really good tight end. He's probably top 3 tight end in the entire National Football League. And when you take him away from the Baltimore Ravens, they're going to react. They're going to react. So is this to me favoritism? Absolutely. But at the same time, I can understand why they do that. You don't want to get a guy like Mark Andrews hurt because, that affects ticket sales, that affects certain things that the NFL wants to happen. So, and also, like, you have a lot of people who may tune into a Thursday night game to see Mark Andrews catch a touchdown. So this would not be happening if this wasn't Mark Andrews. If this was any other tight end that was mediocre, that wasn't a household name, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But hey, that's where we are. And you're going to continue to see that. Let something happen to Patrick Mahomes that happen on a freak tackle or something like that, and watch how they vote on it. That's just the way it goes, man. It's about protecting your stars. Those stars are their investment. They are the ones that the NFL invests in order to put eyes on a product. So that's what they're going to do. Who is our defensive coordinator? Defensive coordinator is Joe Woods. Joe Woods is the defensive coordinator of the New Orleans Saints. Rose City all day. A lot of shout outs right there. I'm going to stroll down. Never enough TJ Jones. Yeah, that's the most recent one that was put out. Never enough. Yeah, took a little sample from the late great Luther Vandross song. Yeah, man. So y'all make sure y'all check that out. It's on the YouTube channel. Joe Woods and Byron Brown is the defensive coordinator is the answer to the question. You're making good songs when somebody willingly gives their computer cancer to get yellow nose. Look, man, I ain't advocating for nobody computer to get cancer or anything like that. But like I said, I just enjoy making those songs. So as long as you all enjoy them, I'm gonna continue to make them. And like I said, man, as time go on, hopefully I can make some songs talking positively. Like I said, it's funny at the end of the day. A lot of the writing and a lot of the preparation goes through the pain, because it can be stressful sometimes to be a Saints fan. Let's see, Cartel says, TJ, I just found out that we lost Shaq Davis to the Eagles. I know I'm late, but this is beyond crazy. I'm going to be honest with you. I actually did a show where I said Shaq Davis was still with the Saints, and that was recent. So, I mean, I thought he was there too. So don't feel bad. Don't feel bad. Give me an offensive lineman so we can run the ball and control the clock as well as play action. I agree, man. I think it's just time to solidify that left playing flag football. Yeah, I mean, two-hand touch is about to be on the horizon. Like the way we see the Pro Bowl being played, or probably about around the time when Paxton can play football, or old enough to be play. If he decides to do that, they might be having two-hand touch out there. Saints, John Butler, awesome video with the top 10 with TJ and 9 others. Yeah. Shouts out to John Butler, man. He asked me and a few other podcasters and Saints reporters to do a top 10. So I'm always appreciative of that, man. Man, it's always great to be acknowledged by your peers and your peers reaching out to you, asking your perspective about something. That's humbling to me because, man, I'm just an everyday guy. Like I pay my bills like everybody else. I go to work just like everybody else. But for people like to hear what I gotta say and want to hear my perspective on stuff is humbling. But when I see somebody out in the street and they recognize me from doing this show and they want to talk to me about the team, like it's extremely humbling. And I appreciate that. See, March Madness doesn't interest me. Yeah, I'm not a real big college basketball fan. I used to be growing up as a kid, but not so much anymore. I don't really watch college basketball like that, so I couldn't really tell you who's going on, who's winning, who's good, who's not. I mean, I just don't follow basketball like that, which is one of the reasons why I just never like wanted to do like a basketball podcast or anything like that. And I feel like honestly, it would just be disingenuous, if I was to do a basketball podcast. If I did do one, I will probably have somebody that's like really interested in basketball, like kind of controlling that, right? It wouldn't be me. It'd probably be somebody else because I would have to like really get into it in order for me to want to, be interested in basketball, and I'm not. UTJ, I remember the PJ Williams hit on Tampa Bay. Yeah, I remember that. That was when Chris Godwin, right? Yeah, a lot of people feel like that was like retaliation for what happened with Jameis Winston. I don't know that. I don't think that's true. I'm surprised like PJ Williams still ain't got no job, man. Like he ain't playing the league last year. I would have thought somebody would have picked him up or something, but hey, I got my notification that you was live and I tuned in immediately. Well, Jules, thank you, son. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Appreciate that, man. Can you do a song? Let's get it wrong. Honestly, I'm pretty sure I could if I probably sat down and thought about it. And that, like I said, I'm not trying to sound arrogant or nothing, but I don't know, man. Like, I couldn't tell you like the preparation or anything like that goes behind it. Like I got a lot of downtime between me traveling from my house to my job. Like my commute is maybe like 45 minutes to an hour. Like if you add in the fact that I drop Paxton off at school every day, so you can say give or take about an hour. And I get a lot of time in the car and I think. And it's not so much I'm listening to the radio because I don't even really listen to songs or music in the car. I listen to a lot of interviews and podcasting. Like I'm really big on like wrestling podcasting. Like I listen to a lot of like Jim Cornette or something like that. He's a former manager, one of the best managers of all time. I just enjoy listening to him. But it's like my mind is just be rolling, and a song might pop in my head, and next thing you know, it just turned into something like like I do for the State of the Saints. So I'm pretty sure if I sat down and listened to it, probably could make a song out of it. Who that TJ? What do family? What it do, family? Saints draft tackle online or D line first. Really O-line penny man. Saints. I'm trying to paraphrase this, man. Have to hit on draft. Who that? Family face blue. I'm not. All right, Reginald. I assume you're saying that the Saints need to draft the offensive line and a defensive lineman in the first round. Doesn't matter. Well, I agree with you, but I'm more so leaning towards the offensive line. Saints don't seem like they really have a culture. Feels like they are AFC team, a bad AFC team. Well, NFC or AFC doesn't matter. If you got bad coaches, bad culture. Doesn't matter the conference. I don't want to say the Saints have bad culture. They just don't have an identity. And they shied away from their culture. But here's the thing. Cultures change, right? You think about it. It is funny because I was talking to my wife about this as we were going to church on Sunday. And I was just saying, like, it's crazy that when some of these kids, they have like these throwback days at school, they're dressing like I did when in the 2000s, right? With the throwback jersey, the Band-Aid under the eye, the headbands, the pants too side too big, the tall tee. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're living by the G code, T's, bows, and Re's, right? But that was a culture at the time, right? That was a culture. Like everybody kind of got into it. Like you're listening to, No Limit, Cash Money if you're from New Orleans. You're listening to Outkast, some of the Atlanta, acts that they had out there, Trillville, Lil Jon, East Side Boys. But that was a culture, right? That was, and then all of a sudden, like it evolved from that to now you're seeing kids, wearing skinny jeans and, and all these different other, clothes or whatever, like, and before, like, even the 2000 phase, you had people with flat tops and Guess jeans and jeans with all the rips up in that joint. And then you had the, you know what I'm saying, like the goose down, like, it's all about, man. So cultures change. So this is where the Saints are. They're going from one culture where, it was the Sean Payton culture, which was, unapologetically themselves and aggressive and didn't care what you thought. And, and now it's all of a sudden like you got a Dennis Allen culture, which is, well, I don't know what the hell it is, but y'all get what I'm saying. Like it changes, like it just changes over time. And it's just not a good culture. It's not a good culture, but that's just the way that it is. Cultures have like ebbs and flows. I look at culture like being on a bus, right? Like you're riding on a bus and you're riding till you get to your destination, right? And once you get to your destination, you're not on the bus anymore. That's kind of like how culture is, right? You're riding on a bus until like it gets like way out of hand. Now you're like, I don't know about this. I'm gonna get off the bus right here. That's why like a lot of these, musical acts and movies and all that kind of stuff. Like I'm really not into, like, so I just know my lane, right? When something come on or a certain artist come on, listen to them versus some of the newer acts. But whatever culture just changed. I don't want to say that they don't have a culture. They don't, you know what I'm saying? Like they cultures just change, right? Even though I don't know what the hell it is, Dennis Allen has a culture. And right now it's a losing culture. But even if it's a losing culture, it's a culture. You still dress like the baggy era, Jones? I do not. I don't get down with the baggy era like that. I try to, be as conservative. I'm not really, man, I don't know, man. I'm not really big on style and fashion and all that kind of stuff there, man. I'm just not. I mean, I used to. Like, you're looking at somebody that used to buy Jordans every time they come out. You know what I'm saying? Like, I tried to, stay as fresh as I can. I used to always, like, I had like a whole collection of hats, all that kind of stuff. But, as you get older, you have a tendency of not really caring about that stuff. I'm more concerned about my son having a fresh cut, my son having some fresh shoes, him looking his best. Like that's my number one priority. Just give me some jeans, and what I'm saying, from Old Navy or H&M or something like that, and I'm good, man. Give me a couple T-shirts. Like this hoodie means a lot to me. Y'all see me wearing it because my wife bought it for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, that kind of stuff that I value. You know what I'm saying? Like the stuff that I have on it, it has value. Like the hat that you see me wear all the time, this from my first podcast, which is out now, an unapologetic podcast. And I can just remember like actually getting, this is like my first design that I ever paid for by a graphic designer. Like I said, this hoodie is my wife bought me this as a Valentine's Day gift. So my clothes mostly have meaning. So, and most of the stuff that I wear is probably stuff that I created for the most part. Because I'm spending $200 to have Jordan on somebody, a logo on some shoes. Like, I can spend some money and create my own logo and wear my own shoes. So that's the way I feel. But nah, I don't. Long story short, I don't wear baggy clothes. What is Dennis the Menace culture? Like I said, it's not a very successful one, but it's a culture. If it wasn't a culture, like we wouldn't have an issue with it, right? You know what I'm saying? Like we're upset because he's created this culture. It's a culture that we don't like. So all in all, it's still a culture. May not fit, even bad culture is a culture. Sean Payton culture was a much smoother and more scenic ride. The bus ride of the Dennis Allen culture has a couple of crybabies and sick people driving through the cornfield. That's a that's a funny way of putting it. But look, I definitely agree. Man, you can make an argument that Sean Payton was the yin to Dennis Allen's yang. And I can look, honestly, I can understand why they work so well now. Like, it makes perfect sense. Because if you look at or pay attention to Sean Payton's personality and you look at Dennis Allen's personality, you can understand like why they got along so well. Because Sean is like hyper aggressive, like almost like a tyrant, right? And then you have Dennis Allen. He's more like, he's like a straight shooter. He's not a person that's gonna rock the boat. He's like a classic teacher, right? They're gonna do what they gotta do. Some of the class in the background, they're gonna be talking. They ain't gonna be listening to nothing they saying, but the teacher ain't gonna say nothing to them. They're gonna continue to do their job, gonna continue to do their work. Then when the bell ring, hey, it's time for y'all to leave. Y'all got it, y'all got it. Y'all don't. Like, and that's the way that I feel. Not to say that he's not a good teacher. What he's putting on the board makes sense. Like we talk about his defensive prowess. Like he knows what he's doing when it comes to the defense. So he's a hell of a teacher. Motivator is another thing. That's a completely different can of worms right there that you're trying to open. But bad coach, like I said, it goes back to what I just said. Bad culture is still a culture. A lot of people just don't like bad culture. TJ, I heard the Saints were interested in Keon Coleman. How do you think he would fit in the new Saints offense? I think he'll fit. I think he'll fit just fine. You're probably going to see a lot of like short and intermediate passes anyway, because that's just the type of offense that the 49ers run. There's a lot of yak, getting them yards after the catch. It's a lot of, moving the sticks, moving the chains type offense. It's a lot of that. So I think that he'll be fine. And he'll be a really good, third down wide receiver when you need a first down. He's a big body guy. He has a really good catch radius. He has a really good vertical leap. Put the ball anywhere in his vicinity, he's going to come down with it. He has great athleticism. So I think he'll fit in just fine. I think he'll fit in just fine. To me, based on what I see from him, he seems like a more athletic Michael Thomas. Like if you look at him play, he's like a more athletic Michael Thomas. Him and Michael Thomas probably run like the same, they got like the same speed. His arm, his wingspan is probably a little bit longer than Michael Thomas, but he just seemed like he reminds me of a more athletic Michael Thomas. Now, does he have that mean streak, that energy like that Michael Thomas come to practice and come to games with when he was in his prime, like before the injuries and stuff like that? It remains to be seen, but he reminds me of a more athletic Michael Thomas. I can see why the Saints want to like bring him in and talk to him. Dennis Allen ain't ish. Poor excuse for a head coach. I think a lot of Saints fans may echo your sentiments, man. Would you rather have Keon Coleman or Brian Thomas? I would rather have Keon Coleman. Now, if they didn't have Chris Olave, I probably would say Brian Thomas, because Brian Thomas is an alpha dog. He's a number one wide receiver where he goes. He's going to be the number one guy. And I just feel like the Saints have Chris Olave, and Chris Olave is their number one receiver. He deserves to be the number one receiver. As I didn't feel that way at the beginning of the last season. I feel like, he was kind of, I didn't know what the hell was going on with Chris, but he definitely got himself together. And honestly, I don't know this or not. I mean, I'm just speculating. I'm just talking. I think maybe that whole arrest scare probably got to him too. Probably just made him realize, man, I gotta like I need to get my stuff together. And it just seemed like after that, I mean, it just seemed like he got more dialed in. So if they didn't have Chris Olave, I would say Brian Thomas. Because they got Chris Olave, I'm gonna say Keon. I'd rather have Keon Coleman. Because look, Keon Coleman is a wide receiver with the potential to be a number one receiver. Brian Thomas, is a guy who off the bus is going to be a number one wide receiver. Like off the bus, like I'd be shocked, like absolutely shocked if this dude like ain't up for rookie of the year or putting up like monster numbers like in his rookie season. I'd be shocked. But Keon Coleman, to me, I think he's good, but he's not there yet, and he probably need maybe like rather around year 2, year 3, you'll probably start hearing like, man, who you think better, Keon Coleman or Chris Olave? But I don't think it's going to be that way like right off the bat. Like I think if Brian Thomas joined the Saints, you will be having that conversation by week 7. Saints culture, if you DA's pet, then you do no wrong, and they will cater to you. It's daddy ball. Yeah, don't want to rock the boat. Don't want to upset our guys, right? Well, that's not a very good culture, and it's not going to last long if you operating like that. I don't know if he is or not, but if you operating like that, LMAO, and with the 14th pick, Saints draft small school defensive end with upside and nobody draft board until the later round. I hope not. I hope they learned their lesson from that, but hey, you never know. But let's go ahead and get into it, man. I promise you all this, so I'm going to go ahead and deliver. And hopefully, if you had time last week or throughout this show when I advertised this, hopefully you got your tiers together. But we talked last week about some of the top New Orleans Saints players of all time. We talked about different tiers. And as we all know, that tiers are like the Mount Rushmore, right? Mount Rushmore, there are 4 presidents there. So I asked everyone to do 5 tiers of, who they feel like are the greatest New Orleans Saints of all time. And right now, I'm going to go ahead and put my tier up. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and take myself off camera right here so everybody can see what I'm talking about here. So these are my tiers. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right. So each one represents a tier. You got tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, and tier 5. Let's go ahead and go over some of them. All right. Let's go ahead and go over some of the tiers. All right. Tier 1, I got Drew Brees. That goes without saying. I got Ricky Jackson. That goes without saying. You got Willie Roaf. In my opinion, it goes without saying. And I got Cameron Jordan. The reason why I selected Drew Brees, pretty obvious. He's the greatest New Orleans Saint of all time. Ricky Jackson, why did I select Ricky Jackson? Because, it's one of the greatest linebackers of all time. Not just New Orleans Saint, but linebackers, period. Look, the Dome Patrol, one of the best linebacker core, if not the greatest linebacker core of all time. And if I think they did a NFL top 10 linebackers of all time, linebacker groups, the Dome Patrol was number 1. So even they believe that the Dome Patrol were the best. And it was led by Ricky Jackson. Then you got Willie Roaf. Willie Roaf had no business leaving the New Orleans Saints. Like, one of the biggest mistakes Tom Benson ever made as an owner, in my opinion. There was some controversy that took place, if I'm not mistaken, about, some things that went on behind the scenes that may have led to Willie Roaf leaving. I'll let you all look into that for those that don't know. But Willie Roaf had no business leaving New Orleans Saints. He goes to the Chiefs. And he doesn't miss a beat. He's a Hall of Famer. Then you got a future Hall of Famer in Cam Jordan. All-time leader in sacks. Iron Man, only missed 2 games in his entire NFL career. To me, he deserves to be in tier 1. All right, then we move on to tier 2. Tier 2, I got Archie Manning, I got Pat Swilling, I got Jari Evans, and I got Marcus Colston. The reason I ain't got Archie Manning in the first tier, because, everybody always has Archie Manning with the first tier. The reason why I don't have Archie Manning is I feel like Archie Manning isn't a top New Orleans Saints player because of what he did on the field. It's like he's a top New Orleans Saints player in some people's eyes because they feel sorry for him. It's because he was the flower in the ish, so to speak, right? He was the bright spot of the New Orleans Saints. So he gets a lot of pads. Well, if the Saints had some players, if the Saints had a wide receiver, if the Saints had a coach, well, it don't work like that. It's unfortunate that it happened to him, and he probably had a bunch of talent. This was before my time, and maybe, maybe some people may be getting upset with me saying this, but I feel like a lot of what happened with Archie Manning is because they feel sorry for him. And he had so much talent, but he couldn't really live up to it because the team was terrible. But I put him at this list because, I mean, you got to go into the passing yards. You got to take that kind of stuff into account, the longevity. So, I gave him the respect, move him down to tier 2. Then you got Pat Swilling. Pat Swilling should be in the Hall of Fame. Wonderful person. Got opportunity to interview Pat Swilling last year. Some of you probably checked out that episode of the State of the Saints podcast. The original number 56. The original number 56, man. Over 100 sacks throughout his career, not even in the Hall of Fame, which is absolute ridiculous. Then you got Jari Evans. Jari Evans, who should be in the Hall of Fame and probably will make it since the Super Bowl will be in New Orleans. So I think it's only suffice that he goes. He's been up for the Hall of Fame twice, didn't make it. But another wonderful human being, a good person, hard worker, was Iron Man for the New Orleans Saints. Definitely one of the best guards the New Orleans Saints ever had, other than Willie Rowe. So felt like Jari Evans definitely deserves to be on this list. And then you got Marcus Colston, man, the quiet storm. Got all the receiving records for the most part for the New Orleans Saints. Came in as a 7th-round pick out of high school, a tight end in college. Goes into the pros, become one of the best New Orleans Saints players of all time. Should have made the Pro Bowl, never made it, but he played in an era where the diva receiver reigned supreme. So if you were out there with the touchdown antics and the dancing and stuff, you have a tendency of having attention on you. And we know that Marcus Colston was just basically about his business, man. Crossed his heart after a touchdown, pointed up to the sky, and went to the sidelines. Sometimes, that can be, a hindrance to some people from, really, breaking out. But Marcus Colston was always a dog, always where he needed to be, and was Drew Brees' go-to guy. Then we move on to, let me go ahead and I'll stop right there, and then we'll go to read the other tiers. Let me see what you all have to say. All right, so Reginald says tier 1 says, where is Reggie? Reggie ain't on the list. Reggie Bush is not on the list. Reggie Bush, to me, doesn't deserve to be on the top tier list. Yes, I just said that. Reggie Bush does not deserve to be on the top tier list. And a matter of fact, let me go on camera when I say this and remove this out of the way so people can know what I'm saying. He does not deserve to be on the list. And the reason why is that Reggie Bush wasn't that good for the New Orleans Saints. He wasn't. Reggie Bush represent a movement. It was from everything that happened with Hurricane Katrina to 2006 when the New Orleans Saints started living up to their potential, right? And Reggie Bush had like a few games with the New Orleans Saints that just kind of stood out. Like, to me, if I'm talking about all-time great New Orleans Saints player, Reggie Bush, his name will come up, but I can think of several other guys that I would name before Reggie Bush's name come up. Reggie Bush was excitement. Reggie Bush was a brand. To me, Reggie Bush, this is a great example right here. Reggie Bush is like Odell Beckham Jr. Odell Beckham Jr., talented guy, but I just wonder, like, how much of that one-hand snag that he caught against the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday night elevated his career. Would he have just been, I don't want to say he would have been a Jag, but would he have been this larger-than-life type guy, right? I think a lot of his brand, like the hairstyle that he came into the league with, the one-hand snag helped him out a lot. Reggie Bush came into the league coming out of USC, providing highlight reel after highlight reel. And once again, he was the 2nd overall pick going to a struggling franchise that at the time we didn't even know was going to be able to stay in New Orleans. And I just think, once again, it's just one of those things, he's like one of those people that we hold to a high regard. But if you look at the games that he played in, like if you look at like some of the things that he did, like there was some bright spots, there was some moments, but he didn't, to me, like if I'm talking about meaningful moments to help win football games consistently, I'm not putting him over Pierre Thomas. I'm not putting him over Mark Ingram. I'm not putting him over Alvin Kamara. I'm not putting him over Darren Sproles. I mean, he was decent. But like I said, I just think that it was a lot of what he represent more so than what he did on the football field. So yeah, he's not on my list. Not to say that he's terrible, because he wasn't. He just, you know, he just wasn't my, he wasn't on my Mount Rushmore when it comes to like greatest Saints players. He was a great Saints moment, but he wasn't a great Saints player. He was MVP in 1979. Oh, we talking about who we talking about? Archie Manning? Let's see. Drew passed Archie as a quarterback. Manning was good, but no Drew Brees. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was good, but like I said, I just feel like a lot of people, when they talk about Archie Manning, it's not so much about how great he was. It was more so like they put him at that top because, like I say, he was a big fish in a little pond. Like I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure he was good. But I'm looking at that list, man. I'm looking at that list, and who would you take off that top four that I put up there to replace them with Archie Manning? Would you take off Ricky Jackson? Would you take off Willie Roaf? Would you take off Cam Jordan? Kind of hard to do. Roaf was a tackle, TJ, not a guard. I thought he played guard and tackle. I thought he played a little bit of guard and tackle, if I'm not mistaken. But maybe he did play left tackle. I thought he played a little bit of guard and tackle. I don't know. I could be wrong. I don't know. When I was a kid, I kind of seen, I thought he played a little bit of both. But yeah, but you get my point, man. One of the best like offensive linemen in the game. You can't be too flashy. Yeah, sometimes, it can benefit you. Sometimes it can benefit you being flashy. Dang, that's crazy. Shaking my head, LOL. Where's the kicker, Anderson? Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Let's see. Reggie did not live up to the hype. Reggie Bush may have some good moments, and yeah, he had that game in the divisional round against the Arizona Cardinals. And yeah, he had that game where the Saints played Minnesota and he almost ran back 3 punts, but they still lost that game. I mean, it was too far in between. Like, it was just too, like, it was always like, man, I want Reggie to do something so bad, man. Every time he touched the ball, like, it was excitement, right? You held your breath because you were waiting for him, like, to do something major. And he did from time to time, like the big touchdown against the Chicago Bears in the NFC Championship game. But I'm just saying, like, I can't remember a game, like, consistently game in, game out where the Saints just won because of Reggie. I feel like that has to be a deciding factor. Like, you got to be in your bag, like, more times than not. And I didn't see that. I mean, he was good, solid. Reggie was a good player. He just didn't live up to the crazy high expectation. But how could he? I will say, how could he? Everybody was, like, looking at him as, like, the greatest running back ever, like the next Barry Sanders. So, but let's go ahead and get back to the list. We'll go ahead and go with tier 3. All right, so we got tier 3. I got Deuce McAllister. I got Joe Horn. I got Sam Mills, and I got Demario Davis. All right, so I feel like, Deuce McAllister, classic running back. A lot of people look at him as the greatest Saints running back of all time. And he's well respected. Everybody loves Deuce. I don't think I know anybody that had an issue with Deuce McAllister. I mean, he ran the ball hard. He was tough. He was really physical. He had some injuries towards the end of his career, but he never really phoned it in. He was a leader. Still around the team right now as a color commentator for every game. And so, I got to give Deuce McAllister some respect. Joe Horn, second, second, like, overall, I mean, second in receiving and all these different other stats. I mean, he was a showman. He definitely fell into that category of, the diva-like wide receiver. Like, he wasn't like top shelf like some of these other guys, like the T.O.s and the Ochos, but he was, like, if he wasn't in the room, man, you know what I'm saying? Like, the door was open, and you ever been in a room where it's crowded and you got people, like, standing in line, they waiting for somebody else to come out so they can come in? I give him that. You know, like he outside, you know what I'm saying? He outside standing in the door. Somebody go out, he would have been in that joint. But we know, man, the classic pulling out the cell phone on Sunday night. You know, he had some moments, man, when he took over the game. He definitely looked like the best wide receiver on the field. So, yeah, definitely put Joe Horn there. Sam Mills, I mean, what can you say or not say about Sam Mills? I mean, an incredible linebacker in his day, tough, physical, had a lot of heart, was an undersized linebacker, but he never phoned it in. Was a Saint for a long time before he went to the Carolina Panthers. There's a statue outside of Bank of America Stadium of Sam Mills. Of course, we know that he passed away, you know, he was like in his 40s, man. I mean, left way too soon, but he definitely left a lasting legacy with the New Orleans Saints, and he's definitely an all-time great. And then also Demario Davis, the second greatest free agent signing in the history of the New Orleans Saints. Depends on who you talk to. He's a leader, still doing it at a high level, still being an all-pro, still being a Pro Bowler. 34 years old, hasn't lost a step. So why, you know, and to me, like, if he has another season, we might have a conversation about bumping somebody else down. But yeah, Demario Davis to me is a tier, made it in tier 3. Then you got tier 4. Tier 4, you got the late great Will Smith. I mean, Will Smith, before Cam Jordan came here, like, Will Smith was the guy. He was the one that was getting double-digit sacks. He was, of course, we know about the celebration where he kissed the bicep. Unfortunately, you know, he lost his life, was shot and killed in Garden City down there in New Orleans. But, you know, he left a legacy, man, and he's definitely an all-time great for the New Orleans Saints. Then you got Jonathan Velma, who the Saints acquired via trade. Came over to New Orleans Saints, was a really good middle linebacker for the New Orleans Saints. You know, kept that position, you know, going, you know, until, you know, the Saints decided to find Demario Davis, because there was, I want to say, a year gap in between finding Demario, where I think Velma left, and then you start getting like Darnell Ellerbe and all these other guys that couldn't stay healthy, and then all of a sudden you got Demario, and he solidified that position. But John Velma definitely, you know, he was a leader for the New Orleans Saints. Great guy, great person, tough guy, you know, and Drew Brees always speaks highly of him, talks about some of those practices, the battles of wit between those two individuals. So, you know, shouts out to John Velma on that. Then you got Mark Ingram. Mark Ingram, the all-time leader in rushing for the New Orleans Saints. You know, drafted in 2011. You know, man, everybody like Big Trust, man. Everybody like Mark Ingram. Like, Mark Ingram is one of the most animated people in the world. He's a tough guy. He's an emotional guy. And one thing that I value so much about Mark Ingram, if Mark Ingram have a bad game in week 9, you know he about to lose his mind in week 10. Like, it's been so many times where, you know, you find yourself upset with Mark Ingram, and then all of a sudden Mark Ingram just goes out there and run for 150 yards. And, you know, it took a while for Mark Ingram to kind of get on track. There were some people looking at him like a bust. I feel like maybe Sean Payton got a little bit too excited about him, wasn't really using Pierre to allow Mark Ingram to kind of adapt to the NFL way. But he did, you know, around year 3, year 4, he lived up to his potential. And, you know, that's the reason why I feel like he's an all-time great, in my opinion. Then you got Marshawn Lattimore. Marshawn Lattimore is the greatest cornerback in New Orleans Saints history. The way that he can lock down the field, he can take away every team's best wide receiver, and he continues to do it at a high level. Miss me with all that stuff y'all talking about, man, he ain't healthy, man, he ain't healthy. The same people, that's the same stuff. Man, Drew Brees this, Drew Brees that, man, he ain't got it no more. I said it too, I ain't gonna lie, I was in that number 2. But at the end of the day, we have to appreciate greatness when it's in your face. And sometimes, you know, there are setbacks to greatness, but that don't mean that they ain't great. And Marshawn Lattimore, to me, is the greatest cornerback in New Orleans Saints history. So that's tier 4. And then finally, we got tier 5 right here. You got Alvin Kamara, who is continuing to, you know, be an all-time great. pretty sure before he leaves the New Orleans Saints, he'll have all the rushing records and all the accolades that you can give to a running back. To me, I feel like, this is going to be the year where he gets back on track, getting a new offensive coordinator that can maybe understand him a little bit better to give him what he needs so he can get back to being the AK that we love. You got Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas definitely could have been higher on the list. Like if he would have stayed healthy over the last 3 seasons, probably would have been in tier 3. Hell, might even been in tier 2, knocking off, Marcus Colston. But unfortunately, he had some bad luck with the injuries, but still done enough throughout his prime to be on this list. Definitely going to be in the Ring of Honor if the Saints have a Ring of Honor. Excuse me. Going to be in the Ring of Honor. Definitely should be there. Did a lot of great things. Then you got Dave Waymer. Some of you I'm probably going to lose with this, but Dave Waymer was the first, true shutdown corner for the New Orleans Saints. He played, if I'm not mistaken, like 8 or 9 years with the New Orleans Saints. Unfortunately, lost his life, had a heart attack due to cocaine use. Had to bring that up, but unfortunately, before when he was playing, he was a really good player. One of the best the Saints had during the 80s. So he deserves to be on the list. And then finally, Morton Anderson, the great kicker. Morton Anderson played in the league for a very, very long time. And I know some people are probably saying, why he not higher up? It's kind of hard for me to put a kicker over, guys that are out there taking snap after snap. Now, don't get me wrong. Like those 52-yard field goals and them 53-yard field goals to win a football game for the Saints that Morton Anderson kicked meant a lot, especially since the Saints were garbage. But, man, it's kind of hard for me to put a kicker over a skill position guy. Putting a special teams guy before Michael Thomas or putting a special teams guy before Pat Swilling. Kind of hard for me to do. I don't think I can do that. So that's my list right there. That's my 5 tiers right there. Those are some of my favorite New Orleans Saints players of all time. And I'm pretty sure you got some honorable mentions out there. I've seen some people put Jimmy Graham. Seen some people put Pierre Thomas. Pierre Thomas almost made the list. Pierre Thomas probably would have been there if I didn't put Morton Anderson. Probably would have been there. But yeah. Said best cornerback. Fred Thomas has entered the chat, TJ. Hell nah. We talking about greatest. We ain't talking about lowercase goats here. We talk about uppercase goats. That was just a waste of time and space right there. Who's the second guy on tier 2? The second guy on tier 2, let's go back to it. That is Pat Swilling. That's Pat Swilling right there, man. That's the original number 56. Let's see, bro. I like the Dawn Patrol, but you cannot deny that they have never been a Saints player on defense more impactful than Darren Sharper. I disagree with that. I disagree with that. Like, to say that they never had one more impactful, nah, I disagree with that. Like, he had a good season where he had those 9 interceptions, but what did he do after that? Like, we can't, take one particular season and one particular moment and just make it trump everything somebody else does. Like, if that's the case, then, maybe Reggie Bush does deserve to be on the list. But Darren Sharper had 9 interceptions the year the Saints went to the Super Bowl. After that, he was pretty pedestrian. He was pretty solid, but he ain't never replicate that after that. And we can't do what some Tampa Bay Buccaneers fans do and take what Tom Brady did in New England and try to add that on to what he did in Tampa. No, he was really good for the Green Bay Packers. He was good for the Vikings. He was good for the Saints the first year, and then he kind of faded off, as he got older. But nah, I'm not putting Darren Sharper on there. Darren Sharper had one breakout season, for the New Orleans Saints. Other than that, he was pretty I mean, pretty average after that. I mean, am I lying? I don't want to, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to make it seem like I'm lying here, or you know what I'm saying, or I don't know what I'm talking about. Let me make sure I'm being correct here. Let me go ahead and take a look at his stats. And of course, I mean, we have to take away from, we gotta, separate the personal life of this guy from the professional life. So let's take a look at it. Okay, so he played 2 seasons with the New Orleans Saints, 2009, 2010. In 2009, he had 9 interceptions, right? That was 9 interceptions. He played in 14 games. He had 71 total tackles, 51 solo, 20 assisted, half a sack. 2010, he played in 8 games. He had 16 total tackles, 11 solo, 5 assisted, no sacks, no interceptions. So, like I said, we got to be careful with that. Like he was otherworldly in 2009. Otherworldly. Like those 9 interceptions were incredible. And we know that the Saints led the league in turnovers that year. Like they had a bunch of turnovers. Those guys were getting their hands on the football, but that was 1 year. So yeah, he was impactful, but that was just 1 year. So you can't, I'm not going to just put a 9 interception year over Pat Swilling had 100 sacks in his career. Like, no way. No way. Like I said, I appreciate what Darren Sharper did. Probably wouldn't have made the Super Bowl or, went 13-3 without him, but nah. What did not know that about Dave Waymer? Damn, he was good. Yeah, man, that was unfortunate. And now I'm not bringing this up to, be on some what's her name? Maria Taylor? Not Maria Taylor. What the Malika Andrews? I ain't trying to be no Malika Andrews out here. Like when dude getting drafted best day of his life. Well, back when he was 15, he shoplifted. He stole a bag of hot Cheetos and a Big Shot pineapple, but he overcame that, and now he's the number 1 overall. Back in 2019, he was at the store with his mom, and he wanted some fruit roll-up, and his mom said no, and he walked out of there with it. The police found him, and he was but he overcame that, and now he's the greatest player of all time. You know how they do it in the draft. Like they're gonna bring up your transgressions. But nah, all in all, Dave Waymer, he was great, man. It was unfortunate that happened. I actually was just looking at his bio before the show started, and just looking at some of the footage, but yeah, unfortunate. What was Darren Sharper doing after that? He's the defendant. I don't know what he was doing. Well, I'll tell you what he shouldn't have been doing. Yeah, what he should have been doing is what led him to be in jail for 20 years. Let's see, I agree with Jimmy Graham being mentioned. Let's see, he scored over 300 points as a tight end, greatest for a tight end in Saints history to my knowledge. Yeah, I like Jimmy Graham a lot, but I'm not moving nobody off that list to put him there. Like, it's kind of hard for me to do. Like, who are we replacing him with? I'm just saying, like, that, like, this is my list. This is my list, so I don't want to, like, put words in anybody's mouth. I'm pretty sure, like, people will probably replace him and stuff like that. And a lot of this, I kind of got, like, the advantage because, man, I'm 37. I'm 37, so I seen quite a few of these guys, and even though I probably was a baby, well, you know what I'm saying, are kind of young, but I still have like a little bit of knowledge of some of these guys playing. And yeah, but I'm like, who am I going to take off this list to put Jimmy Graham there? I'm just looking at who am I going to replace him with? Like, you can't, like, I don't know. That's tough for me. But yeah, I mean, he definitely deserves honorable mention. Yeah, he definitely like if there was another tier, probably would have him there. But that's my list right there, and feel free to comment down below and let me know what your list is, who you would have on your list. I really would appreciate that. I'm gonna go ahead and put that link down in there for the link where if you want to check out some of the greatest hits of the State of the Saints podcast, that is available for you. But I want to say thank you all for checking out the State of the Saints podcast. Much love to you. Ask that you subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Hit that like button so you can get notifications and also you can get up-to-date information on the State of the Saints podcast. You can follow me on TikTok. I'm on TikTok now at TJAY the host. All right, TJ the host. You can check me out on TikTok, also on X at TJAY Jones 8. Previous episodes available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Anchor FM. And also, before everybody get up out of here, got a huge announcement, very, very huge. Just dropped today. Probably like within an hour before I actually start doing this podcast. But Bleacher Report, we will be having a special Night 2 edition of Saints Talk with TJAY Jones on Bleacher Report Live. We will be breaking down the second and the third round of the NFL draft. So on draft night, night number 2, second and third round, we will be going live on Bleacher Report. So that's why I'm telling everybody, make sure that you follow me on Bleacher Report. Make sure that you check that out. Check out Saints Talk with TJAY Jones. We're going to be going live. Going to be roundtable discussion. We're going to have representative from all teams in the NFC South. We're going to be talking noise. We're going to be, talking about each other's team. We're going to be doing all that stuff, all that fun stuff that we all love to do. So make sure that you check it out. Make sure that you follow on Bleacher Report, Saints Talk with TJAY Jones. Draft day number 2, second and third round. We're going to be going live from start to finish. So this is going to be a really busy weekend, Who Dat Nation, because you already know we're going live on the State of the Saints podcast channel for night number 1, round number 1. On Bleacher Report, we're going to be doing rounds number 2 and 3. So make sure that y'all check that out, all right? Thank you all so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast. Have a good morning, noon, night, whenever you're checking out this podcast. Like always, all I got to say is, who dat?
Thank you for listening to my daddy's podcast.
Hey, don't let these tears fool you. It's all dog around this mug. I'm good.